A phase diagram shows all different phases of a particular substance, and it shows rough values, at least, how to go from one point to the other. So most of these phase diagrams look kind of like a Y. So if you use your imagination, there's like a Y right there. The solid-liquid interface is the first part of the Y. The liquid to gas part is the second part of the top part of the Y. And then the solid gas at the bottom is like the base of the Y. If that works for you, cool. If it doesn't, don't worry about it. I'll try and show it. But anyway, in a phase diagram, you almost always have pressure on the Y-axis and temperature on the X-axis. And then the solid is almost always in the far left side. The gas is basically the far right. And the liquid is the middle part of this so-called Y. And so it'll show you where solids go to liquids at a certain pressure, where liquids go to gases. And also it can show you, for example, where solids go to gases there at the bottom. But along the way, there's some interesting things we'll talk about here. A triple point is fascinating. It's where you have all three phases at the same time. So imagine if you had an ice cube in liquid water with gaseous steam over it. That would be the triple point, for example, for water. So we'll talk about these. Phase diagrams are super helpful to geologists, to engineers, to anybody working with many phases of the same material at the same time. And we'll kind of see how this works out as we go through. This is a phase diagram for water, all right? And water, of course, is so important to us in so many ways. Now, water is a lot of points that we know at 1 atmosphere of pressure, which is 760 millimeters of mercury. So let's kind of visualize what's happening in each one of those sections. So imagine that we have solid water, an ice cube, all right? And we could view into it. So that little animation there shows what the ice cubes are doing. They are moving around. It's not a lot, okay, but they are moving. Even that movement would stop at 0 Kelvin. That's where absolute zero becomes a handy reference point, because at 0 Kelvin, even those kind of movements would stop. But solids do have some movement to them. You can see that's what's going on. Now, as you raise the energy, you get to the point where the solid starts to turn into a liquid. And this would be an animation kind of showing it. So you've got the solid on one side and the liquid there to the right on the other. This would be the melting point if it was a solid, or freezing if it's liquid going to solid. And you can see that both phases are around at this point. This question shows a phase diagram for oxygen. And oxygen has a solid, liquid, and gas or vapor phase, just like the water one did. And you can see the different points. Now, there's 1 atmosphere on the top, 760 millimeters of mercury. But notice that the temperature down there on the bottom is not even close to room temperature. Room temperature is like 298 Kelvin. And this phase diagram there has a highest point of roughly 90 Kelvin. But that's not why I'm asking this question. Here's the interesting thing. I want you to focus on the solid-liquid slope. I want you to focus on this part right here, which is the interface between the solid-liquid phase. Now, if a slope is positive, and this comes from the graphing lab, if a slope is positive, it increases up and to the right. And if you have a negative slope, that would be something that increases up and to the left. Now, the solid liquid line for this oxygen right here, you can see it's increasing up and to the right. That would be a positive slope. And what that actually tells chemists something which is amazing. If you have a positive slope, your solid phase will be more dense than the liquid phase. So looking at the phase diagram for oxygen, all right, we have a solid slope. And what that means is that if you had a solid piece of oxygen and you placed it in liquid oxygen, the solid oxygen would sink to the bottom. The liquid would be over the solid. And again, why that's kind of cool is that when you see water here in a little bit, water has a negative slope. Negative slopes mean that the liquid phase is more dense than the solid phase. So the ice cube floating on liquid water, again, very, very rare, but you can quickly tell from a phase diagram if that's true or not by the slope of the line. So positive slopes are what you're going to see for these phase diagrams most of the time. Solid phase will be more dense than the liquid. Solid will sink. But for water and just a couple other substances, you do have a negative slope. That means that the solid phase is less dense than the ice will float on the liquid water. It's kind of a cool thing. It's very rare. That's why I'm kind of highlighting it here. But anyway, hopefully you can share some of my excitement with me. Here's an animation of the liquid phase, and liquid molecules do have some intermolecular forces, not as tight as the solid, but it's keeping it together. But more importantly than not, try to focus here on the slope of the solid liquid line. And you can see that that line is increasing up and to the left. Oxygen was up and to the right, but water is up and to the left. So that means that the liquid phase is more dense than the solid phase. Solid ice cubes float on more dense liquid water. It's kind of a cool thing, and again, it only happens for water and a couple other groups. Now, when you increase the temperature even more, you get to the point where you're in equilibrium between the liquid and the gas phases. So then you have liquid and gas at the same time. So as you vaporize a liquid, the liquid turns into a gas. On the other hand, if you condense the gas back to the liquid, that would be condensation. So both of those would involve that interface right there where you have both phases running around. Eventually, you'll get to just the gas phase. Gas molecules have no intermolecular forces, at least for us, interacting between them. So a lot of kinetic energy, like there's a lot of movement around. The solids had hardly any movement. They have very low kinetic energy. Gases have a lot of kinetic energy. So even though the little intermolecular forces are trying to form, that high intermolecular forces rips them apart before anything noticeable happens. That's why we say that gases have no intermolecular forces. Solids will turn into gases directly, and every substance has a certain pressure and temperature where this is possible. So you can see where that line is kind of focusing on. For water, that's at a pressure less than 4.58 millimeters of mercury. It's a very, very, very low pressure. The temperature is about 0 Celsius. That's not so wild, but you do need a super low pressure. And that's why we're not used to seeing solid ice turning into a gas or gaseous water turning into solid water. Most of the time, we're at 1 atmosphere pressure, which is at the top part of that graph. Solid goes to liquid, liquid goes to gas, and we're good to go. However, all substances also have what's called a triple point, and triple points have all 3 phases present at the same time. And water has one, and acetone and ethanol and every substance you know should have a triple point. Triple points are very specific for pressure and temperature. And so for water, if you're at almost 0 Celsius, 0.01 Celsius, and your pressure is 4.58 millimeters of mercury, and remember normal pressure is about 760 millimeters of mercury, then you can get all 3 phases at the same time. So you'd see like an ice cube, liquid water, and gaseous water all happening at the same time, which is pretty crazy. Here's the phase diagram for oxygen once again, and it says what is the point called where you're at pressure of 2 millimeters of mercury and a temperature of 54.34 Kelvin. So to read this table, the pressures are on the y-axis. That number right there is the 2 millimeters of mercury. And here's the 54.34 Kelvin temperature. And if you go up, notice you're right at the intersection of the solid liquid gas line. So that's called the triple point. All right. Triple points are where you have all 3 phases at the same time. So that would be the triple point. This picture shows water at the triple point. And again, it's kind of hard to show in a picture, but you can see that you've got solid like ice forming. You've got the liquid water under it, and there is water vapor over it as well. So water is really important, and you should know these, and I hope you know them already, but the normal boiling point for water is 100 Celsius, and the normal freezing point is 0 Celsius. And that happens at 1 atmosphere, which is 760 millimeters of mercury. The triple point is just something we're not used to. It's about 0 Celsius, but the pressure is so low. And normally we don't have pressures like that we deal with in our day-to-day lives.
It's the whole thing just gone. Oh. about to say, I think the whole thing's solid, and now it's... Jesus.
This is kind of cool. This compound is called cyclohexane. It's an organic chemical. But anyway, this is at cyclohexane's triple point, 6.33 degrees Celsius and 40 torr, 40 millimeters of mercury. So this is something that's easier to do in the lab than, say, water. But you can see there that there's liquid at first. The liquid turns into a solid, the ice kind of forming. And then all the bubbles, that's the gas phase. So all three phases are present at that point. Pretty wild stuff. The critical point is another point that is sometimes shown on these phase diagrams. And at the critical point, all the substances turn into what's called a supercritical fluid, SCF. And these supercritical fluids are just wild. It only happens usually at very high pressures and temperatures, but there are some kind of cool things. And the classic example of a critical point is for carbon dioxide. Now, carbon dioxide is nonpolar. And when supercritical fluid of carbon dioxide is used on coffee beans, it's able to extract the caffeine from the coffee. So all the decaffeinated drinks you have are basically the result of using these supercritical fluids, specifically CO2 on the coffee bean. So the decaffeinated coffee bean is left, and the caffeine, which is extracted from the CO2 then, can be used, and that's what's used to make sodas and energy drinks and stuff like that. So pretty crazy. So for water there, the supercritical point this critical point is 374 Celsius and 218 atmospheres. So that's a lot higher than we could probably honestly get to at Mount Hood. But if you're in an industrial place or a higher institution, you could totally get those kind of pressures happen. So anyway, the densities of the liquid and gas phases become equal. You basically have this supercritical fluid running around, and it's pretty interesting. But again, all the caffeine that comes in everything caffeinated except for coffee, you have to get through these kind of processes.